I'm King Link, and a grand welcome to Still Great. Since this is the first in the series, let's quickly talk about what the series is about, and if you don't care, I'll be short. I'm an older guy. I've been gaming for over 30 years, almost 40 years now, and I've seen a lot, to where over the last year I focused almost completely on retro games. The fact is, there's stuff from 20 years ago that not only is still great, the title of the series, but it's stuff that I would recommend people check out today, even without nostalgia goggles. A big thing with this is, it isn't a retrospective video. This isn't where I'm talking about an ultra popular game everyone should have played like Super Mario World or games being remade like Metal Gear Solid. Instead, this is for the games and genres that the industry has kind of forgotten, but I haven't. And today's title is one of my favorite games ever, so let's get started with my first recommendation, SSX 3. As you see on screen, we're already hitting the slopes. I mean, this game is just lovely, snowboarding down a beautiful vista, seeing what's out there, and experiencing what the world has to offer. You might see snowflakes as I play, and we'll talk about those collectibles later, but the first time you hit the slopes in the game is the moment of wonder. Every time I start a new character, I can't help but fall in love with this title all over again. Before we get too deep into this, snow pun, let's take a quick step back and meet the cast. In SSX 3, you start by choosing your snowboarder. There's Elise, Nate, Mac, Allegra, Kaori, Zoe, Moby, Simon, Griff, and Vigo. This was made in 2003, but this is extreme sports, so you gotta have a little attitude to survive in this arena. Who you choose won't make too much of a difference. It's the same progression, same world, and you're selecting whose butt you want to check out for 10 hours. In that case, Elise is the correct choice, or whose reaction you want to see in the loading screen. For me, like I said, it's Elise, but we'll play some other characters as we talk about the game, and with that, we go back to our first session on the mountain. This game sets you out on a short, easy course near a lodge. But the first thing you have to figure out is the controls, and while this video isn't a tutorial, I always find it interesting that in most games, the D-pad and the analog stick are either the same thing or completely different. In SSX 3, they look and feel the same at first, but they're not. The stick allows you to steer, and the D-pad appears to do the same, but the second you start to jump, they change. The stick remains focused on steering, and the D-pad now deals with pre-winding your tricks. This sounds like a small part of the controls or a frustrating system, but it very quickly becomes second nature. Steering and winding up for tricks are a huge part of this game, and this is the one thing I have always had to remember when I pick up this series, but 5 minutes later, it's muscle memory. But with that, we'll go past the lodge and check out some more of the mountain, and already, you can see I can't hold back. I'm going to be doing some small tricks because, honestly, they're just fun. I'm not in an event, I'm not working on points, and the cash you make for these tricks is pathetic. They're just fun to pull off. And that's probably the most single important reason I love SSX 3. The game just feels amazing to pull off tricks even if there's no reason to. This reminds me of another series that usually has the same feeling. Of course, I'm talking about Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's always a challenge for me to just focus on getting somewhere in both titles because I'm constantly looking for stuff to play with or different moves to do. And where Tony Hawk Pro Skater's levels are brilliant for this, SSX 3's mountain is jam-packed with amazing locations and events. Let's talk about the mountain first because everything you'll do will be on this mountain. Or technically, these mountains. There are 3 mountains of increasing difficulty, each one has its series of events, and each one is well designed. You have everything from a large half pipe that you can keep pulling off tricks in, to vast hilly slopes, to just race tracks with tons to explore and tons of stuff to trick off of. There again is a lot to see and do on these levels, and like I said, this is probably the reason I love this game. Actually, if you remember, this actually links back to a very old video for me where I kind of bashed the idea of open world games and why they're boring. And the thing is, this is the counterpoint because traversing this world is entertaining outside of the events. There are 2 reasons this works. Okay, maybe 3. First, there's tons of stuff to see and do. Each level has challenges and collectibles to grab as you explore. You can also grab those collectibles while doing races. The challenges though live up to the name and you have to find them and beat a special rule set, possibly slalom, a mega trick, or just beating a specific time limit through a course that's made for stunts. The second reason this works is that it isn't open. There are huge massive areas like the top of the mountain that we're seeing now, but this just gives you a ton of space to go through. Go too far in one direction and you're going to be pulled back to the map hard, which leads to the third thing. The dirty little secret of this world is, it's an open world in name only. You're on a mountain, you can't easily climb it, so it's got the ability to do an open world, but you're really in a narrow corridor. The open world here is more about not playing in a specific game mode, so when you're not racing or not in a competition, you can explore these same courses and have things to do. There's also the fact that almost every course here can be entered from a previous course, and many lead to another, which is useful, well, in a moment. So let's talk about these courses. There are two types of competitions. There's the typical race, and then there's what's called freestyle, essentially a trick competition where you're going to be chasing points. I could explain them in depth to you, but honestly I think you already know what both of those things are. If you're slightly confused about the points though, well, every trick I've been doing earns me points in those modes. And if you're in a competition, you can also combo those points to really pack on a ton of them. From there, it's who gets the most. Simple, but you can see here the combo at the end of this run racks up a mega score. Though the one interesting thing is that in races, you still need to do tricks, because tricks actually build up boost, and your boost is what makes you go extra fast. There's a few deeper systems here involving uber tricks, which you'll certainly see me doing, but do tricks, gain points or boosts, and go. If you're in a trick competition, keep doing tricks. If you're in a race, use that boost to go fast. The races are pretty straightforward, usually 2 courses per mountain with tons of stuff that you can do stunts off of. The trick competitions has 3 styles, big air, half pipe, and slope style. But in reality, all 3 essentially amount to doing massive tricks, racking up the points, and don't take an obscenely long time to get to the end because there is a still pretty lenient timer, but you can run out of it. Though, this all sounds normal, so what happens after you win those courses is also great. After winning all the races or all the trick competitions on a single mountain, you're challenged to a 1-on-1 competition with a rival at the highest track on the mountain, the top. From there, you just compete head-to-head in a race or trick competition. Pretty simple. After this, you go through a full mountain run, so you're going to go through the same courses you've already been through, but this time in a continuous run of the entire mountain, which feels like a major accomplishment where you know you have dominated the entire mountain after one of these runs. They can take 15 to 30 minutes, and you get to see how well designed the world is. Once you've won that, you go to the next mountain when you beat either of them. Yeah, either. You can go to the next mountain if you win either the full mountain race or the full mountain trick off. Or there's actually 2 other options. You can go to the next mountain when you collect enough collectibles and complete enough challenges, and the final possibility is just earning enough money, which are pretty reasonable goals. Hit those goals and you're able to tackle the second mountain, and there's even a third mountain after that. And if you notice, these mountains are built on top of each other. You might realize what the full mountain run of the second or third mountain will be like, but yeah, it's as epic as you might imagine. It goes from the very top all the way down to the bottom. There's one more thing to bring up, and this hopefully won't become a problem with the video, but the music in SSX 3 is excellent. In fact, it's up there with being tied to the game in much the same way as Superman by Goldfinger is synonymous with being in Tony Hawk Pro Skater. For me, Yellow Card's Way Away is so good, but it's not just being in the game that makes it stand out. They play with the sounds. Not only is there a great song playing, but what you're doing and how you're doing in the game affects the music. As you can see, once you're knocked down, you can hear all of the track cut out, and then when you're doing better and better, you start hearing more and more of the sound, including the vocals. This really can pump up the player as he's going through the game, and honestly, after a big trick and hearing the full song, it makes you feel awesome. This is the sense of accomplishment that we want, EA, not if we have access to a credit card.
Game face on. Kicked out. Love that name. Sounds evil. Kind of scary. I'm going to enjoy this one, so check it out on Pink 3 today.
Also, DJ Atomica here needs a call out. He adds to the atmosphere very well, but even beyond that, it's just great to have a DJ to the songs, so it feels more like a radio station. And what's really interesting is he actually appears in other games, including Burnout Paradise. Yeah, that one will probably get its own Still Great one day, so I'll avoid showing it here. So I've talked about a lot of things in SSX 3, and they're all good. But you know what? This actually reminds me of something I think about often, Bartlett's types of players. This is probably an outdated system. I know a lot of people have said it is, and it's designed more for MMORPGs, definitely is that, but I think there's something fundamental here. On this chart, you have competition, exploration, achievements, and now I'm being social and sharing it with others. Okay, technically that one might not count, but this really does tick those other boxes. Once you put all of this together, you have what I think is an excellent game when it came out in 2003, and this is 20 years old at this point. In addition, I think even today, there's not that many games that are still in the extreme sport genre by itself. I know there's stuff like Skateboard, but honestly, none of that also accomplishes the same as SSX 3. It's kind of simple in what it covers. The thing is, the SSX series itself is pretty good, and I know I said I don't want to talk about the entire franchise, but let me highlight two other titles that need to be called out. SSX Tricky was the title before SSX 3. It essentially was a sequel to the first game, but also a remake of it in a sort of way. You should just start on SSX Tricky if you want to play this series. I honestly never really got into this way back in the day, even after playing SSX 3, but going back to it now, well, considering doing the full retrospective of this, I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. I still think SSX 3 is better, that's why we're talking about it, but SSX Tricky is still worth checking out if you're enjoying SSX 3. There was a reboot of the series in 2012, so still over 12 years ago. That was SSX for the Xbox 360 and PS3, Xbox 2012 if you will. I actually remember that was one of the first games I ever saw at E3. I waited in line for it, and honestly, it lived up to what I hoped it would be. It's not exactly the same as SSX 3, but much like Tricky, if you enjoyed SSX 3 or really any title in the series so far, give that one a shot as well. And if you're wondering if I don't like SSX Blur or SSX On Tour and thus not mentioning them, there's nothing written on the paper. So the thing is, this series is about retro games, and a lot of old titles have been done better, or at least as good recently. SSX 3 kind of stands out. Now, here's Steep, one contender for SSX 3's crown, and honestly, I played about 8 hours according to Steam on this. I don't know, I must have left the game on for 6 of them. This is just meh. This game is so hyperactive. Every run is generic and over so fast. There's multiple face buttons and bumpers focusing on the view where the tricks really feel like an afterthought. It's a shame because this is what extreme winter sports are now, and yeah, it's not great. Where's that nice, long, well-crafted course that gives players a chance to pull off some major moves, or a control system that feels intuitive? Now there's also snow that wasn't great at launch and honestly now doesn't work at all. It's no longer available to buy at least, and oh well, honestly no big loss from what I remember. Neither of these games were that good, and it kind of shows how well SSX 3 did and how no one else has taken up that same mantle. The thing is, this is the legacy of not only SSX 3 but SSX as a franchise. And I'm not here to tell you SSX is flawless. Blur and On Tour do a great job of disproving that themselves. But the thing is, while Tony Hawk is still beloved and is even getting remakes with questionable design decisions, SSX 3 is still the best in the series. It's 22 years old, and I don't see any remakes on the horizon, sadly. There's probably no microtransactions that they can shove in the game for EA's pocketbook. And before someone goes, well, SSX Tricky is a better game, no, you're wrong. But even if it was, that's 23 years old at this point, kind of the same thing. This series is almost certainly dead, unfortunately, but it's strange that no one has even made a good snowboarding game in 13 years, and I'm including the Xbox 360 version there because it was a ton of fun. But you know what? That's what the series is about. SSX 3 was made over 22 years ago, which means it's old enough to drink alcohol and vote. It's a game that hasn't been beaten. It's a game that's still fun to pick up and play through. The music, the tricks, the progression, the level design, all of that still works in 2025, which means it's still great. And that's kind of what I have for you for the first entry of the series. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're still watching, I will take that as a yes. Leave a like or comment to show your appreciation. Are you already a fan of SSX 3 or are you going to go check it out for the first time? Now, I still have my favorites of my Xbox 360 collection and my PlayStation 2 collection here, and I imagine we'll be going through some more of these titles in the series. But what retro games do you think haven't been beaten and thus are still great in 2025 or whatever year you might find yourself? I'd love to find more titles that deserve another look. Honestly, I'm looking for stuff that I haven't played the first time around either. This video was delayed for a lot of reasons, honestly, but I said in the first video of this year I want to do 6 videos in 2025. We will see, but we might have to count that Tokyo Extreme Racer video as one of those 6. Also, I haven't brought this up because I kind of forgot to do this back then, but yeah, I took the revenue from last year, matched it, and kind of matched it again, and donated that to the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance. I do foresee the changes to my channel probably won't be making as much money in the upcoming years, but I do still fully intend to donate all my earnings on this channel to charity and then some. So by watching this, you're helping me help the animals. That's good for everyone. I am working on another video, hopefully it'll come out next month. Honestly, it's a ROM hack. I normally wouldn't talk about ROM hacks, they're all pretty good. But this one does something I've never seen before, and honestly it was so funny, I think I have to show it off. So get ready for that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you want to check it out. If you want to help out more, share this video with more people, or just tell them to check out SSX3. Honestly, this series is just much more of a way for me to get people to try out some older games, or at least remember them fondly. If you're going to go and try to figure out how to go play SSX3 one more time, or for your first time, well, I've done my job. With that said, see you next time.